I'm Carla. I am a sleep coach for adults, and I'm all about helping sleep deprived humans elevate their health and their happiness. And now we have Tania Dalton. I'm so excited to do this with you, Tania. So I'll do a quick intro for you, if that's all right, or unless you want to intro yourself. But I feel like you won't do yourself justice if you do it yourself.
Whatever you.
All right, so Tania is a personal trainer. She's a meditation teacher. She is a health coach specializing in the postmenopausal space. She will disagree with this, but I know that she is an incredible athlete. She did an Ironman in her 50s. She's training for Amy's Grand Fondo, which is how many kilometers?
I don't know. It's not that many, but it's quite steep.
It's hilly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hilly.
It's hard for
and for
me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, well, no, I think that's one of the things that I find so amazing about you is your determination and your grit. Like you commit to these things and you just freaking get them done. Like that is amazing. And so, yeah, Tania is obviously a wealth of knowledge in the menopausal space. And that is why I thought that I would kick off this little series with Tania. So welcome. How are you doing this morning, Tania? You're recovering, getting back to chilly old Melbourne?
Yeah, after being away in beautiful Queensland, it's terrible. It's challenging, isn't it? And it kind of affects a lot of things. I think I slept much better in the warm weather, which kind of goes against probably what what would be ideal.
Do you think maybe there was less stress up there, though?
There's less stress. I was outdoors a lot more than I am. Things like
lots
that. A lot of contributors.
Lots of exercise, lots of sun. That would have made a huge difference. Yeah. So I was just sort of talking about how I've been finding as I'm sort of going through this perimenopausal journey and learning lots of stuff, and of course talking about my experiences and what I'm learning, it's feeling to me that a lot of women, and I've sort of been talking to a lot of women in my sort of age group, so in their 40s, that aren't really aware that this menopause thing is coming, let alone what it even is. And I was curious, do you sort of see the same thing? I mean, I know you normally work with women who are a tiny bit older, but are you sort of seeing the same thing, out and about when you're sort of engaging with sort of the general population or people that aren't in the health and wellness space?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a few things there. I think for a start, we view menopause as getting old. No one wants to get old. So we kind of like go, that's not going to happen to me. That's exactly what I did. I thought, not happening to me. I'm not really, I'm too young to be going through menopause. I'm not getting old. So that's what I'm part of trying to reframe that idea that menopause is not a bad thing. It's actually, there's a lot of benefits and it can be very empowering. And the other thing is just awareness. And even some doctors don't, they will tell people that they're too young to be going through menopause, which is completely wrong. So the education in the medical area is kind of a bit lacking. That doesn't mean that there's not some really good medical practitioners around. There is. So, really, I think, we kind of just realize that, the average age of menopause is 51, which is 12 months after your last period if you're cycling. And then perimenopause can kind of be like, the average is around 5 to 7 years, but it can be 10 years, up to 10 years before. And I also think that, our bodies, even if we don't notice the changes, if there's not symptoms as such, it's starting to change. Probably, around 40, your body's going to start changing. Obviously, your fertility is decreasing and things like that. So your body's starting to change. So it's kind of a long process. And then that symptom area is kind of quite, I don't know, it can be quite long and quite distressing. But I think part of it is that people don't even realise what a lot of the symptoms are, that they could be related to menopause. Doesn't mean they have to be related to menopause, because obviously it can be a variety of things. But there's a lot of things that are related to menopause that I didn't know about, that I wish I'd known about now. And I think I would have managed things much better, because I really feel like, awareness is the key, and knowledge is, knowledge is power.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on a really good point there in terms of, and I'll sort of maybe talk a little bit about my experience here as well, that, you know, this sort of transitional period is sort of like 8 to 10 years, right? And I talk about this with my sleep coaching clients quite often because what I think is really happening here is the changes are really gradual to start with. So you don't really notice that anything's happening. There might be little bits and pieces, but you don't really notice. And I mean, we've spoken about my recent experiences, so I know you're all over this, and I won't share all the gory details with everyone. But you sort of you don't realize, you sort of adjust to this new normal. And essentially, I mean, what happened to me was like all of a sudden I hit rock bottom and I was like, holy shit, something's seriously going on here. What is it? And that's when I sort of like realized, and obviously I chatted to you a little bit as well, and realized, oh, maybe this is what it is, and it's all just caught up with me. And now I really do need to do something about it. But also realizing now that I'm actually doing something about it, oh my God, I've been having symptoms for years and I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's
And I think
crazy.
it's hard because you can't do a test for it. Like, you know, you can do a blood test. Well, you can do a blood test, but one day your levels might be at a
Yeah.
certain point. The next day they can be, or even in that day, they can be completely different. So it's very frustrating because you kind of like, and everyone's, you know, everyone leads busy lives. So you kind of, the symptoms kind of get mixed. You can kind of, you know, go, oh, it's just about this. It's that. But when they do, like you said, start to accumulate, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and go, hang on, I'm not
Yeah.
feeling anywhere like I used to feel.
Yeah.
It can be stressing. And again, I just keep going back to it. I really think knowledge is power. So the more
Mm-hmm.
knowledge you have about what could be a symptom, because then you can take action, whether that's
Mm-hmm.
a medical, you know, way through hormone treatment or whatever, or just lifestyle changes. But when you realize that that could be related to menopause, and then you do have to kind of to thrive, I think, you know, you can't really put your head in the sand. You need to really, when you know what's going to happen and what's going on and why, then you can go, okay, I need to do things a little differently, and you can take action, and you can make the experience probably much better than mine was, and set yourself up for living really well in the future as well.
Yeah. And yeah, you're so right. I mean, I remember seeing somewhere that the list of menopause symptoms is like 80 or 100 or something like that. And it's because they're so vast, you know, connecting the dots, you just sometimes don't connect the dots, right? So I think that's really important. And that's where it can be really important to actually speak to someone who is actually educated in this, just to see if if you are in your 40s, chances are you probably are in that phase. I wanted to talk to you a little bit, obviously, about the impacts on sleep as well, and both from your knowledge, but I know also your lived experience, because I know you have shared with me in the past that you did have a little bit of a rough ride. So can you talk a little bit about the impacts that this sort of season of life can have on sleep?
Yeah. So that was probably my biggest issue, I think, sleep. And I suppose previously I hadn't really valued sleep very much, which was not setting myself up right from the start to go through this transition very well, because your body needs sleep to recover and to go. You know, there's a whole lot going on when you're going through menopause. It's a huge change. You need, you know, sleep needs to be a priority because it helps your body get through this transition. And yeah, and then I just had all sorts of problems. It was a disaster. But now that I think I would have done things so much differently looking back. I did get through it through lifestyle modifications and not using any hormone treatment. That worked for me. Doesn't mean it won't work for everyone else. But now that I realise, you know, like as our progesterone levels are starting to deplete, progesterone's kind of sleep hormone and our, you know, relaxing hormone. So that's disrupted. Then you add in night sweats, which I had severe night sweats, like literally waking up 3 times a night, dripping in sweat, like horrendous. I had to change my clothes 3 times a night, sometimes my bed linen. It was really bad. This didn't go on for forever, but it was a really significant part of my life. And then I think that when things like that start to happen, then that disrupts your whole kind of routine and your whole sleep thing. So there's a whole lot of things that come into play. And also, you know, we seem to be more sensitive to light, sound, and those kind of things. Like, you know, I could just be pre-menopause, I could just, you know, go to sleep like that. I might not have sleep, but I could just go to sleep like that. During perimenopause and beyond, it's so much harder. And I think, you know, once I recognized that and accepted that my body was changing, that it wasn't working the same way, and I couldn't just, you know, close my eyes and go to sleep, then I started to look at sleep hygiene and all those things that you do. And it's such a big difference. But yeah, so I think one of the things that we have to think about is that I always say that our body's a bit less tolerant of less healthy behavior as we go through menopause transition and as we age. And if you haven't prioritized sleep in the past, then you're going to probably struggle during menopause.
Yeah, yeah. And you touched on sleep hygiene, right? I mean, obviously I talk about sleep hygiene all the time, and I feel like often people might be wanting some sort of like magic cure, some sort of like new thing that they haven't heard before. But when it comes to sleep, particularly in this stage, it is all about doubling down on your sleep hygiene. And as you say, keeping things dark, quiet, and cool, because we are more sensitive to all of those little things. You know, that shard of light that's coming in from the curtains, you know, the dog clip-clopping around on the timber floors. So because we've got the hormones are all out of whack, we've often got higher cortisol, all of those little things, we are so much more sensitive. So actually really doubling down on the basics actually makes a really big difference. Obviously the night sweats is something a little bit more tricky, but there is absolutely a lot I think that people can do in terms of sleep. And when you were talking about lifestyle, is that really around dialing in your nutrition, you know, alcohol, like training, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think just like you said, just the basics, and then things
Mm.
like just the training, for example. I don't seem to be able to exercise at night now. If I exercise at night,
Mm.
it'll disrupt my sleep. Before I could exercise till 10 o'clock at night. You know, go out and do a, I don't know, you know, recreational basketball game till 11 o'clock. Come home and just go to sleep. But if I did that now, it'd be a disaster. So I recognize that, you know, my body it really does is telling me what it needs, and if I listen to,
Mm.
then generally it works quite well. It doesn't mean it's perfect. And in perimenopause, you know, there is going to be times like before I would get a period, and obviously it was all over the place during some parts of perimenopause, but I would have severe insomnia, really bad, like maybe a little bit pre-menopause, but severe insomnia, like
Yep.
awake all night and things like that. So there's sometimes things that are kind of beyond your control, I suppose, and that's when I
Mhm.
suppose, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but they're the times when that's when I discovered meditation. I would lie there kind of just going, well, if my body's relaxing, it's better than, you know, maybe looking at a screen, for example. Like if I'm just lying there trying to relax and be in a bit of a meditative state, whatever that is for everyone, it's probably better than getting up and being on a screen, for example. I don't know, what's your thoughts on that kind of thing? Because
Yeah.
there are times when, you know, you just can't control it. Like the severe insomnia can be really hard, and no matter what I did, that sometimes just was, you know, then I get my period and I go, oh, that's why I couldn't sleep that night before things.
Do you know, a couple of things there, and I will come back to the meditation stuff. But what you were saying is like, you know, you don't realize it's your period, and I always laugh at those memes that are being like, you know, basically showing someone being like all upset and crying and what have you, and then you know, next day it's the period, and then you're going, you know, oh, this has only been happening like, you know, happening 300, you know, happened 300 times, like why haven't you figured it out yet, kind of thing. But that is also one of the challenges of Peri, is because you actually don't know what the schedule is. And you know, when I had my little sort of meltdown, what was it, a few months ago, that was me, right? I was like, I feel like I'm going insane. Is this hormonal, or am I actually like, it was dramatic anyway. But
It's distressing. It's
we,
distressing because you're kind of not in control of your body. It's
we
doing it,
don't.
and there's no, and like I said, you can't test for it. You don't know when your period will come. It's very, for someone who likes to be very organized, it's really challenging to deal with, and
Yeah,
that creates anxiety, which affects your sleep. All of it kind of, you know, builds on each other, doesn't it?
and I think you're right, because I mean, I'm probably a little bit like you, like, I like to know exactly what's going on. I'm in control of my life. Like I am the boss of everything in my domain. And so, yeah, these things get a little bit out of whack and it really kind of throws a spanner in the works. I was going to go back to your comment about meditation, and yes, I absolutely love that, right? Because quite often, and this happens, of course, to people who are not in this stage of life as well, whether it just be because they're highly stressed, they've got stuff going on. And I love recommending meditation to my clients, particularly clients who have trouble falling asleep, but also in those times that they wake up early in the morning and can't fall back to sleep. I often talk about non-sleep deep rest, so yoga nidra, which is really great because it does actually give you sleep-like benefits. So I think, if yoga nidra is not someone's jam, then any sort of meditation, breath work where you're just calming and resting, absolutely so much better than picking up a device or scrolling, because if you are doing those things, you're really causing that mental alertness. So we want to dampen it down. Even if we're not going to sleep, we're just keeping nice and chill and relaxed. Gosh, I'm keeping mindful of the time, and I knew that we would like race through this very quickly.
Need to do some extra sessions.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking, and I was going to say, if anyone that's joined has any questions or anything, feel free to drop them here, and we'll either respond to them later or we might do another session. So I guess with all of the knowledge and experience that you have now, both, through your lived experience, but also through all of the study and all of the coaching that you've done with clients, what would you go back and tell your sort of 30 to 40-year-old self?
Yeah, I would first of all say get your sleep under control before perimenopause. That'd be a great idea because it should be under control whatever age you are. That would be my number one. And I just think as well, just, trying not to, like I said before, I kind of put my head in the sand. I kind of thought medicine was going to affect me. I was kind of too healthy. And I think I was a bit in denial as well, which I find a lot of people, like, you don't want to, it's quite confronting to, first of all, lose your fertility. Second of all, kind of realize that you're probably halfway through your life, at least, and all those things. So, to try to change that thought pattern and go, menopause is another stage of life. I think there's a lot of benefits of going through menopause, empowering time of life. So changing my attitude about menopause for a start, and then just educating myself. I really think the more educated you are about it, then you can, then you'll go, oh, that aching algae joint that I had for a year that I couldn't work out what it was, that could be related to menopause. Then I can at least take action and try to do something about it. So yeah, like I just think knowledge with power, is knowledge and knowledge is, really power, and knowledge with action is superpower. And I think that's what we really need to think about, as we go into that kind of time of life.
Yeah. And, on the denial front, I was totally in denial. In my mind, I was like, I'm going to be one of those people that just, goes through menopause like really late, or maybe it won't even happen to me.
I just thought I would wake up one day, my period would stop, and I would just get on with life, and that would be it. And I was so wrong about that. It's like, it made me really kind of question. It's taken me a long time. I think it's still a process to go, it's going to happen to everyone. And so we might as well, embrace it and manage it in like the best possible way. So it can be an empowerment. And obviously there's going to be ups and downs as with any stage of life, but knowing that, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel, but you can do a lot to help yourself through the process as well. It doesn't have to be, really bad. It doesn't mean that you won't struggle at times, but it doesn't have to be horrendous.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, and sorry, I know we've just hit the 20 mark, so we will wrap it up. I think the other important thing is that when you are actually being proactive about these things, it actually helps because you feel like you've taken back control. If you're just sitting there in denial and thinking, oh, woe is me, life's going to get shit, then it is probably going to get shit. But if you are going, okay, what can I do? Well, I can do all these things to fix my sleep. You know, I can start training a little bit differently. I can, you know, maybe it's reducing the alcohol, maybe it's looking at nutrition. There's all these little things that actually help you to take that power back, and that control, or feeling in control, is also going to help that journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think it's a
Yeah.
good attitude, actually, because,
Yeah.
you know, we are, you know, there's things that we aren't in control of, but we're in control of a lot. Like you said, like,
Yeah.
you know, alcohol's a big thing,
Yeah.
particularly for sleep. Like, our body doesn't process it very well in menopause and things like that.
Yeah.
So there is so much we can do to help ourselves. Again, it doesn't mean that we're still not going to go through some harder times, but yeah, like you said, being in control of what we can control is very empowering, and it does make a difference. Yeah. Good tip.
Amazing. Okay, we've just hit the 10:20 mark, so I'm going to wrap up. Now, if anyone is watching, Tania also runs a Facebook group for postmenopausal women, where she provides a lot of free value that isn't available publicly on Instagram. So if anyone is interested in that, just drop Facebook in the comments and I will make sure you get that link. Otherwise, go and follow Tania if you're not already, or if you've come to me from Tania, make sure you follow me for all of the sleep things. And yeah, we might need to do another one, I think, because we've only just touched the surface. So I think there's definitely lots to talk about here.
I think we need to have these chats more often, because, you know, I've learned a lot from you just from this that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So we need to do this and then share our, I think it's good. I really think another thing is women sharing experiences is really important, because you often feel like you're alone. When people don't talk about it, you think, oh my God, I'm going crazy. I am all alone in this. And you don't have to be. And when we start, you know, talking about it and sharing our story, it really does help other people. I think it's really important.
Yeah. And I think, you know, for some people, there's still a real stigma about this, right? I'm sure there are still people out there that even struggle to talk about periods. So, you know, let's talk about it all of the time, make it really freaking normal, because, you know, 50% of the population is going to go through this process. So let's just talk about it, normalize it, help each other. And yeah, as you say, the more we actually talk about it and help people to learn what is going on, the better everyone is going to be for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much, Tania. I really appreciate your time, and I will speak to you again soon.
As well. Like, you're such a wealth of knowledge, and yeah, I've learnt lots off you, and it's good.
Thank you. All right. Speak soon. See ya.
See you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody. See you later.